how does the man perform?
We believe that all men are created equal.
To the magnificent mosaic that is America.
From radio beacon to radio beacon.
I have a dream today.
Change has come to America.
Believe it.
Knock, knock. Who's there?
It's a figment of your imagination.
Randi Rhodes Show. Turn up your mind.
That White House officials are scrambling to figure out their next steps for countering the push for impeachment. One person close to the White House telling NBC there is rising anxiety, unease, and concern inside the White House that the whistleblower's allegations will seriously wound the president. One source familiar with the situation described to NBC a sense of, quote, total panic over the past week at the lack of a plan to address this new reality. Another person familiar with the discussions described the mood inside the White House as shell-shocked, with increasing wariness that as the impeachment inquiry drags out, the likelihood increases President Trump could respond erratically and become, quote, unmanageable, as if that hasn't already happened. According to the Washington Post, Trump's advisors are envisioning a split-screen strategy in the coming weeks. The Post noting Trump is considering stepping up his fall schedule of campaign rallies to galvanize his supporters outside Washington and to portray House Democrats as liberal insiders who are focused on impeachment instead of governing.
Oh, for God's sake.
Seriously. For God's sake. So he's going to have more rallies. This is his answer to lawbreaking. You know, listen, here's the thing. The president of the United States really is a thug. He's a mobster. He's a capo, is what he is, and he runs a family. He thinks that the law is for suckers. He thinks that people who sign up to fight wars to preserve democracy in this country are schmucks. He thinks working people are losers that were cogs in a giant hamster wheel. So that's how he approaches the world, okay? He approaches the world where the law itself is for suckers, and that only by, being a tough guy and beating the law can you become a billionaire or whatever he thinks he is. I mean, that's the premise upon which this president took the presidency. That's how he thinks. That's who he is. It's how he views Americans who work for a living. It's how he views Americans who are signing up to defend this country against all enemies, foreign and domestic. I mean, he just thinks we're all a bunch of dupes, all a bunch of losers, all a bunch of schmucks. It's how he thinks about the world. So that explains a whole hell of a lot about his lawbreaking here, where he's obviously been caught. I mean, the transcript of, it's not a transcript, the memo of the supposed phone conversation between the president and the president of Ukraine, Zelensky, is damning on its face. Now, the whistleblower complaint was written before we ever saw the summary of that particular phone call. We only saw it because Nancy Pelosi came out and said she now supports impeachment. And that told the American people, oh my God, there really is a lot there. There must be stuff, because she, in the face of evidence of 10 counts of obstruction of justice, she passed. She passed on impeachment. So if she's saying that this new story that's only been 6 weeks, in the making, really, is alarming and, violates the oath of office he took and puts the American, puts our country in harm's way, actually damages national security, and shows that the president is an abuser of the law, that the president won't follow the law, and that he did this the day after Mueller testified, knowing that he fought the law and he won, right? So he said, well, if I'm not going to, be indicted, if I'm not going to be impeached, which is indictment, for collusion, for obstruction of justice, I'm just going to do it full on. I'm full bore going for it. I'm going to pick up a phone and I'm going to shake down Russia's enemy for Russia. I'm going to do them a favor. I'm going to call Zelensky and I'm going to hold up their military aid in exchange for dirt on Joe Biden. Why not? Why not? Russia doesn't want them to have military aid. And so, why not do it? Why not do it? this is what's been going on. Bill Barr is the consigliere. Obviously, he is a dirty, dirty guy. There is no question. I mean, the summary that he put out of the Mueller report had nothing to do with the Mueller report. And then he sat on the Mueller report saying, only I can release it, right? Only I can. So he let his summary go out. He let everybody ramble on and on and on about what might be in there, what's not in there, what it should be in there, will it be redacted, will it not? For 3 weeks. And by then, the advance summary won the day. It was a PR ploy by the Attorney General of the United States, which is sick, on its face. But that all happened. And now Bill Barr is when Bill Barr came into the White House, the Mueller investigation had already left they say the horses left the barn. It had already happened, and Barr couldn't control it. All he could do was manage the fallout from it, which is what he did by putting out a summary that had nothing to do with what was in that report 3 weeks earlier than he released the report. That's how he did damage control. But in this particular case, with the shakedown of Ukraine and a new president of Ukraine, a reformer, a non-politician who had never, ever been around politics, who was elected in a landslide, Bill Barr was involved at the very beginning. He had complete control over all this. So Bill Barr's got to be impeached. You understand that, right? You do? I hope you understand. Yesterday somebody asked me, so who prosecutes? And I said, I don't know. Well, obviously it's only Congress. That's all we have. And of course, all Congress can do, the House can indict. That's all the House of Representatives can do, is it can indict. And then it's going to be up to the Senate to hold a trial, and to be the jury and to either vote to up or down to remove the president or not. You know the makeup of the Senate. This is advanced politics here. So I need for everybody to understand why this took so long to get approval from Nancy Pelosi. She thought that Bill Barr had accomplished damage control on the Mueller report, the whole thing, even though we had evidence of law breaking. But there's a political reason here too. And I hate when people say impeachment is a political process, because it's not. It's not. It is the only place in this constitutional republic. It is the only method we have to hold a law-breaking, power-abusing, mob boss, reality TV star president accountable for his law breaking. It's the only place. So let's not let the, corporate media or whoever some of these reporters are amazing. I got to say, and I hate painting with a broad brush like that. But I'm an independent journalist. I'm an independent media person. And I'm telling you right now that to say that impeachment is a political thing, no. The Republicans made it a political thing when they impeached Bill Clinton for personal behavior, for having a consensual affair with an intern. They made it political. They used it as a tool in their political toolbox, just like Bill Barr is using the Attorney General's office as a political perch, okay, to help Donald Trump win in 2020 by digging up dirt in foreign countries on Joe Biden's son. I mean, it's just such a bizarre scenario we're in. But the only place that there is to hold this president accountable is Congress. So stop letting people tell you that this is politics. It's not. This is a legal proceeding that we are about to enter into. This is going to be the only place where prosecutors can charge the president, the House, and where prosecutors can make the case against the president in a trial, the Senate. And remember, the senators will be the jury if Mitch McConnell holds a trial at all, which I still don't know if he would. But the senators would be the jury, meaning there would be prosecutors in the Senate, and the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court would be the judge. It's not exactly political, is it? No, it's legal. But we need to talk about what I think might happen and what you think will happen.
all things Randy at RandyRhodes.com.
Go for launch.
Speaking truth to power, the Randi Rhodes Show.
This is a very sad time for our country. The impeachment of a president is as serious as our congressional responsibilities can be, apart from declaring war or something. And so we have to be very prayerful, and we always have to put country before party. But I would say at this time, I would say to Democrats and Republicans, we have to put country before party very clearly in the public view. And this is about the Constitution of the United States. The clarity of the president's actions is compelling and gave us no choice but to move forward. Our founders, in the darkest days of the revolution, Thomas Paine said, "The times have found us." Well, we think the times have found us now to protect what they fought for, our democracy, our independence, and then a constitution with checks and balances, not a monarchy, as Ben Franklin said, a republic. And all of that is at stake. The separation of powers is the genius of the Constitution. 3 separate co-equal branches of government to be a check on each other. This is as serious as it gets when it comes to protecting the Constitution of the United States. The oath of office that we take, I think the president violated that oath. But sadly, we have to follow the facts, and the facts are so dragging, but in other words, to corroborate what we have heard so that the public has a comfort level of what we have to do.
So Nancy Pelosi this morning, she was saying how sad it is that we have to do this. It's sad that the president is a mobster, sad that the president is a liar, sad that the president's a lawbreaker, sad that the president disrespects this country in the way that he does repeatedly and now as president. Okay, before what he did when he asked Russia for help, took Russian help, encouraged Russian help, his son was meeting with Russians, all these things, he wasn't president. He wasn't president. He did commit crimes. He did obstruct justice as president. That, for her, did not move her to impeachment, but, putting our democracy at such risk, compromising our national security, dispatching, private citizens to intimidate and terrify allies of ours. Ukraine is an ally. Ukraine wants to be part of NATO. Ukraine is fighting a war right now. I keep telling you, 13,000 people have died in Ukraine trying to defend themselves from Vladimir Putin's incursion, from Vladimir Putin taking, he already annexed Crimea. Now he's trying to take the eastern part of Ukraine. It's called the Donbass, but he's trying to take the eastern part of Ukraine. And their people in Ukraine are terrified that this beacon, this shining city on the hill that stands for democracy and human rights and, freedom of the press has now become some sort of kleptocracy, oligarchy, authoritarian, dictatorship. And this is where they are. They're now floating around, trying to defend themselves from their neighbor with help from the United States, who is threatening not to help them if they don't do them a favor and dig up dirt on Joe Biden. And there is no dirt on Joe Biden. That's just the long and short of it. But I mean, this is frightening, and it's definitely something that jeopardizes the future of America. In that, will we be a free republic, or will we fall to an authoritarian demagogue dictator? And that is the question on the line. And it is very sad. It's sad that we got here. It's sad that he pushed us here. It's sad that he decided on top of it to threaten the lives of the people in the White House who reported this national security risk, this undoing of democracy that they were witnessing in real time, to a whistleblower who could write a complaint to the intelligence community's Inspector General, Mr. Atkinson, who said, yes, this is credible and it's urgent. This is of urgent concern. It has everything to do with the kind of country America will be going forward and is now. And yes, we need to, investigate. So the IG did what he was supposed to do. He actually interviewed the witnesses in the White House who were providing the information to the whistleblower. He found them to be credible, and he found their claims to be urgent. They felt it was urgent. He felt that what they were saying was corroborated. They were interviewed separately, obviously. This is what's in the whistleblower letter as well. Their stories were credible. It was of urgent concern. And so the IG, Atkinson, refers it to the DNI, who testified yesterday. And the DNI feels like he didn't do anything wrong. Now, he did do something wrong, and here's what he did wrong. He didn't follow the law. The law says that if the Inspector General of the intelligence community, Mr. Atkinson, should say that he's got an urgent and credible complaint that Joe McGuire, the DNI, acting DNI, shall refer it to Congress. He shall. But instead, McGuire, who was on the job, he says 2 days when all this appeared on his desk. 2 days. He said he felt that there was some claim of executive privilege that could be made. And so he went to the White House and asked them. And then the White House kicked it over to the Department of Justice to see if there was a criminal thing that could be filed. And they looked only at campaign finance violations. And Bill Barr said there's no campaign violation here, disagreeing with Bob Mueller. Bob Mueller found in his report that dirt on an opponent is a thing of value. Obviously, it's valuable, or else why would Rudy Giuliani risk his law license? Why would the president risk his presidency, shaking down a brand new president in Ukraine to get dirt manufactured on his opponent if it's not valuable? So, but Bill Barr made the decision again. It was not Bill Barr's decision to make. The law says shall. And it wasn't Bill Barr's decision to say there's no crime here, therefore it's moot. There's nothing to do with this complaint. The law does not say that. If Bill Barr thought that there was no criminal campaign finance violation, whoop-de-doo, good for him. Doesn't mean that Congress lost its right to see the urgent and credible complaint. That's where Bill Barr broke the law. That's where Joe McGuire broke the law. That's where Pat Cipollini, the White House counsel. Now they're going to say, we're supposed to be giving a zealous representation to our client. Can I remind you that none of these people's client is the President of the United States? No. Their client, the AG's client, is you and me, the people. That's why all the complaints say the people. The United States versus, doesn't say Trump versus, it says the people. And the White House counsel doesn't represent Donald Trump. Maybe now it's clear to you what I meant and what I mean when I say that the White House counsel represents the office of the presidency.
Call in, connect. To speak to Randi, call 561-270-3844. 561-270-3844.
So here's where we are as far as free speech TV goes. And this is really good. Today is the last day of my first pledge drive as a free speech TV program, right? I mean, I guess that's what I am. I'm a program for them. And so what happened yesterday, we had Andy in San Diego. And Andy in San Diego said yesterday, for one day only, he would match everything that you gave up to $10,000. Well, guess what? He's back with a group of other people as well. So for the last day, they wanted us to go out with a bang. And I really appreciate this. Free Speech TV, Andy, and a bunch of, progressive independent media supporters have put their money again where my mouth is, and they will match anything that you do today, up to $15,000. Yeah, it's crazy, right? Thank you, donors. Thank you, everybody. So if there's this great little thing now that they actually got over at Free Speech TV. I'm going to show it to you. It's called Impeach Mints. It's a little tin of mints, okay? Your breath mints. And if you do a $25 donation, they will send you the tin. That's them right there. See them? Aren't they cute right there? See, Impeach Mints. It's a little tin, and inside are mints. And so for $25, we'll send you that as well. And of course, your $25 today becomes $50 because of Andy in San Diego and a anonymous group of donors who will match whatever you do today up to $15,000. Now, today is the last day of our pledge drive for Free Speech TV. So thank you for trusting me with your finances over there. Again, we don't take a salary from Free Speech TV. So this is for them. This is so that they can keep the doors open there. This is not for the Randi Rhodes Show. That's something completely separate. And, you know, our supporters, we love you. So this is a great way to go out. Double day, right? 50 becomes 100, 100 becomes 2, 1,000 becomes 2,000, up to $15,000. Thank you very much for that. Now, let me play what Nancy Pelosi's view of Bill Barr is this morning, because it's so interesting that we have the same view.
Let me ask you about the Attorney General.
He's gone rogue.
Mika and I have had an ongoing debate for years. I've always said the institutions are strong. They will hold. We will be fine. She's been far more concerned. But this Attorney General now has me questioning. Yeah. How do the institutions hold if the Attorney General's gone rogue? If there is somebody in the White House this morning watching, and they are watching, and they understand that they violated an executive order and misclassified information for political purposes and could be facing legal penalties, where do they go when the Attorney General himself was mentioned in the whistleblower complaint at the top and buried it? Where do they go?
Well, I think where they're going is a cover-up of the cover-up. And that's really very sad for them. And that to have a Justice Department go so rogue, well, they have been for a while.
Right.
And now it just makes matters worse. That the Attorney General was mentioned, that the President was mentioned, and yet the Justice Department directed the Director of National Intelligence to take this to the White House.
Which he said yesterday was unprecedented.
Unprecedented. And he's a person of great reputation. I felt sorry for him because here he is having to I don't know what. I mean, right. I think that what he did broke the law. The law is very clear. When this information comes, it's deemed credible and of urgent concern by the Inspector General. Right. The Director of National Intelligence shall convey the information to Congress. Now, this is my wheelhouse, as I said to the President. 25 years of experience in intelligence, a long time ago, starting as a member, being the ranking member, being Gang of Four, even before I was in the leadership. I was there when we wrote the whistleblower laws. I was there when we wrote the law establishing the Office of Director of National Intelligence. That's only since 2004. Right. Shall convey that information to the Congress, and poor soul.
And instead he took it to an Attorney General who is mentioned as a possible part of the conspiracy.
And the President's lawyers, when the President was mentioned, not highly unusual, unique, wrong.
Yeah, and I felt sorry for him too. I mean, some people have no compassion at all. I mean, we got a call yesterday. Why didn't I trash Mr. McGuire? And, this is why we lose and da-da-da-da-da, because, he did not lie. That's the thing. Joe McGuire did not lie. Joe McGuire clearly said that he was not the best person for this job, that he felt that Dan Coates or Sue Gordon, his immediate, next in line, should have been the next DNI. He said that he was there on day 2. This all came on his desk. He did not know what to do. But you know what? Ignorance is no excuse. He broke the law. Poor, and that's what Nancy said, poor soul. I kept saying I even called the show yesterday above his pay grade. I felt bad for the guy. I felt really bad for the guy. The guy is a rear admiral. The guy is a former Navy SEAL. He's a military guy. I don't know why they picked him. I don't know, how he gets out of this. Because feeling sorry for a defendant, it might mitigate the penalty, but he did break the law. He did not do what the law required him to do, which is to turn it over to Congress. And Bill Barr was just so elated that this man was, totally stupid about it and ignorant about the law and didn't understand what the law provided for, and that he was included as a subject of the whistleblower complaint. And that gave Bill Barr a chance to kick it over to the Department of Justice and to say, there's no crime here, therefore we don't have to turn it over to Congress. So Bill Barr broke the law. I hope you can see how simple this is. He broke the law, okay, because he didn't turn it over to Congress either. The whole thing is off the hook. Bill Barr has proactively blocked every avenue for investigating this president since he's been the Attorney General of the United States. He really does need to recuse himself today, from the remainder of this investigation. He will not, and he is risking it all, and God only knows why. Maybe he thinks that the president can weather this after he's indicted by the House, which he will be. Mitch McConnell, by the way, just told the AP, this just came over the wire, Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell says that if the House goes ahead and impeaches President Donald Trump, the Senate, quote, has no choice but to conduct a trial to determine whether the president is removed from office. He said to NPR this morning, quote, if the House were to act, the Senate immediately goes into a trial. So he's agreeing to at least hold a trial. Now, if these people who are the most unpatriotic people, and by that I mean the GOP, if they acquit this president without a fair, understanding of all the laws that have been broken by all the people that have broken them, maybe Bill Barr thinks he's the next Supreme Court justice. See what I mean?
This is the Randi Rhodes Show. To speak with Randi, dial 561-270-3844. That's 561-270-3844.
And you read that allegation, and the first people that you go to after you read that allegation are the White House lawyers who are telling the White House officials who see this transcript and move it into a secret compartmentalized system. Those are the first people you go to.
Well, let's say a couple of things.
Is that yes or no?
Yes, but
okay,
also,
so I'm gonna keep going here. So you get this complaint. Inspector General says urgent, credible. You have no wiggle room to not go to Congress, and instead you send your concern to the subject of the complaint, the White House. So
it's sick.
For more on the full implications of this, I'm joined by Joyce Vance, former U.S. Attorney and MSNBC legal analyst, and Ian Bassin, former Associate White House Counsel of President Barack Obama, co-founder and executive director of the nonprofit organization Protect Democracy. Joyce, today watching McGuire, there was something almost kind of tragic about it, insofar as this seemed to me an individual who, if embedded in a system that was not corrupt and not abusive, would have been a perfectly good public servant, but proved inadequate in the face of abuse and corruption.
I think that that's absolutely right. I disagree with the decision that the DNI ultimately reached, but I'll tell you what I think his reasoning was. There was an executive privilege issue at stake. He felt like he had to take that to the White House. The only problem, as you point out, is that it was a corrupt White House. But even if he had been correct in making that decision, there was still another problem here, because what Bill Barr's Justice Department ultimately did was they conflated the notion that prosecutors engage in criminal cases and make decisions about whether the law has been violated, and they conflated that with Congress's oversight duties. And somehow Bill Barr then says there won't be a criminal case, and he forecloses Congress from proceeding. And that, I think, is the guts of what's so wrong here, is somehow this Justice Department and Bill Barr, who's given us very little reason to trust his decision-making in this regard, cuts off both avenues of review, and they're very different, as we know.
That's it. That's exactly it. You know, because Bill Barr has decided that there's no campaign finance violation, which, by the way, is in stark contrast to what Mueller thought about campaign finance violations. Mueller thought that the dirt that Russia gave was a thing of value in the campaign. However, now the president is the president, and Bill Barr decides that not only is he going to say there's no campaign violation here because dirt on an opponent is not a thing of value, which is bizarre and crazy, but he also then cuts off congressional oversight, which was not his role. That is why Nancy Pelosi is saying that Bill Barr has gone rogue. He has shut down every single avenue to investigate this president that exists since day one. Since day one. So there's that. You now also have the State Department implicated. And who implicated the State Department? Freaking Rudy. Rudy sat on TV, held up his phone, told Lala Ingram that the State Department was the entity that asked him to get involved in foreign policy, that dispatched him and his emissaries to make contact with a prosecutor that's been removed in Ukraine and take that corrupt prosecutor's word for whether or not Hunter Biden had committed any crime. And today, by the way, that dirty prosecutor who was removed, that's the guy I call Mr. Lutz because his name is Lutsenko. And the guy that's there now is Mr. Less because his name is Leschenko. I know it's hard. But that's who Rudy was relying on, a corrupt prosecutor to say, oh, yeah, there's dirt on Biden. Well, that prosecutor today changed his mind and said there's nothing there. There is nothing here on Hunter Biden. We changed our mind. We changed our mind.
How many times did you speak with, in person or over the phone, with Rudy Giuliani or his associates? Dozens of times?
I don't remember.
That's him.
I had, I think, some 50, 60 phones per day during 3.5 years in General Prosecutor Office. With Mr. Giuliani, I have met twicely, and twicely I spoke about. Now we are speaking.
Those were physical meetings. What about communications, emails?
I think
frequent.
I think that it is not a public question about my phones that not connected with Ukrainians' cases.
No, I'm talking about the, and I'm not asking for the records. I'm just saying, were you in regular contact with him?
No, it was there were irregular contacts, but yes, I have spoken with him maybe 10 times.
10 times.
Maybe.
Always about this issue?
This and another even political issues.
That's the dirty prosecutor, Mr. Lutsenko. That's him. Richard Engel, God bless him, found him on the streets of Kiev and was able to interview him. And I got news for you. That scared the bejeez out of him because today he says, we didn't find anything.
Ukraine tonight is at the center of a firestorm it wants no part of, but can't avoid after President Trump brought up the Bidens in that phone call with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky. Today, Ukraine's former top prosecutor telling the Washington Post he uncovered no evidence of corruption by Hunter Biden when he worked as a consultant for a Ukrainian energy company while his father was vice president. From the perspective of legislation, he did not violate anything, the prosecutor said. But President Trump asked Zelensky to reopen the investigation.
It's a mess. It's a mess. But here's what you have. You have a dirty AG. You know, you got Bill Barr, who believes he's going to be the next Supreme Court justice if Donald Trump can weather this storm. And he believes that Mitch McConnell will be, the guy that will introduce him, confirm him. God forbid something happens to the notorious RBG. He's going to wait her out. And Mitch McConnell is going to be the person that, is going to call for the trial. And he'll acquit the president. And they're all betting that, things will just go on as normal and that, he'll slide in. I mean, this is just sick. This is really sick. Mike Pompeo is now implicated because Rudy Giuliani has implicated Mike Pompeo and the State Department. So expect to see Mike Pompeo run for Senate. Seriously. Out of Kansas, which is where he hails from, is where he comes from. I mean, this is such a... So here's what could happen, okay? This is the creepy part. So if we are able... Well, I know that we can impeach, which is just an indictment. Can we remove? Don't know. It's not a secret vote. If it were a secret vote, I bet you would get 36 Republicans, 40 Republicans voting to impeach him, voting to remove him. But it ain't secret. And these people are so afraid of their lunatic Cult 45 base, the Al-Qaeda's out there. They're just terrified of the Trumpanzees. They're terrified of the people that are hanging on to this dictator, hoping that he destroys America so that they can recreate it in a white way. I don't know what they hope for, but they are not patriotic. They don't love the Constitution. They have no respect for our laws. They don't know our laws. They don't care to know our laws. They're just all about Donald Trump, okay? It's a cult of personality, and he has made the sale. So those senators are terrified of those people, right? And a good chunk of them are on the ballot. Mitch McConnell's on the ballot. Good chunk of them are on the ballot. So you've got, all the politics in their head interfering with their love for this country. It's fascinating. And meanwhile, they're going to say that the Democrats are acting out of pure politics. And that's just false. The Democrats withheld indicting the president over obstruction of justice, which was bad enough law breaking. But now you got witness tampering that you saw yesterday in that video where he's intimidating the people inside the White House who were interviewed by the IG. I mean, just remember, the inspector, the Republicans are going to run around saying this is hearsay and it's secondhand. No, it's firsthand. And how do we know it's firsthand? Because the inspector general interviewed all of the people, the whistleblower got information from to find out if it was credible. Hence the determination it was credible and urgent, right? So the IG has interviewed all these witnesses. That's a gimme, or he never would have referred it. He never would have, said credible and urgent. So don't be bamboozled by their talking points. Oh, it's all hearsay. The whistleblower got it secondhand. Yeah, but the IG got it firsthand. He interviewed the witnesses. Bill Barr refused to give it to the FBI. Refused.
Mary had a little lamb. The fault.
We believe that all men are created equal.
To the magnificent mosaic that is America.
From radio beacon to radio beacon.
I have a dream today.
Change has come to America.
Believe it. Knock, knock. Who's there?
It's a figment of your imagination.
Randi Rhodes Show. Turn up your mind.
Sir, the Constitution says treason is punishable by death. You've accused your adversaries of treason. Who specifically are you accusing of treason?
Well, I think a number of people. Bergdahl. You know Bergdahl, right? Traitor. He's a traitor. Remember the old days? In the old days, being deserters. Boom. In the old days, deserters were shot. Boom. Firing squad. No, it's true. Bing. And it goes quickly, right? It's called you're dead. Treason. It's treason. There are a lot of people out there that have done some very, very evil things, very bad things, I would say treasonous things against our country. If you look at Comey, if you look at McCabe, if you look at probably people higher than that, if you look at Strzok, if you look at his lover, Lisa Page. It was treason. It was really treason. And that's what it is. It was treason. This is actually treason. You're just lucky I happen to be the president, because a lot of other presidents would have reacted much differently than I reacted. They have unsuccessfully tried to take down the wrong person. That's treason. That's treason. Treasonous. Okay? Thank you very much, everybody.
I mean, project much? This is the history of the President of the United States throwing out this word that is a word that's applicable only in a time of war, okay? And calling everybody from Hillary Clinton to Bergdahl, who was, the guy who walked away from his unit. Remember him? Just anybody and everybody that speaks ill of him or doesn't hold him in high esteem or somehow knows he's lying 12,000 times in less than 3 years. That they are they're committing acts of treason. This man is obviously a traitor to this country. This man is obviously treacherous. This man is obviously someone who does not respect that we are a nation of laws. He thinks laws are for suckers. That's just a fact. Just like all mob guys think that the only way to get rich is to operate outside the law. And that's why there is a saying that behind every great fortune is a great crime. I mean, Vladimir Putin is the richest man in the world, and it's all because he's committed crimes against his own people. Okay? And he takes vig from everybody that he allows to be an oligarch, right? That you get to be an oligarch in Russia by kicking up to Vladimir Putin. Donald Trump is running that same racket here, right? In order to be in his good graces, first you got to stay at a Trump hotel. The Saudi contingency, they got to stay in Trump hotels. The Air Force, they have to take their refueling, overnights at his Turnberry resort. I mean, the man does the same thing. You got to kick up to him or he holds you in low esteem and he retaliates against you. That's just a fact. And he's disloyal to even the people that stick their necks out. He's disloyal. You watch what's going to happen now. See, now Trump has to turn his back on Rudy. Now I got to turn my back. After a lifetime of service, $1,300, $3,200, that's what he gave me. A sweaty wad of cash is what Rudy's going to get, and now he's going to have to turn his back on him. Because Rudy is scared too. And now comes the circular firing squad, where Donald Trump, the most disloyal human being on the planet, he's disloyal to his own country, obviously. He's disloyal to his own kids. I mean, he'd serve them up on a silver platter. He was disloyal to Manafort. He's disloyal to he'll be disloyal to Pence. He's disloyal to Flynn. He's disloyal. I mean, there's just nobody. Michael Cohen, he's shoved under a bus. You got people serving 7.5 years in prison. You got, Cohen doing 3 in the minimum security kosher prison, upstate New York, Otisville. I mean, this guy, he just doesn't care. He just doesn't care. It's all for him. It's all about, he's the godfather. Okay. He's the godfather. And everybody else is a soldier or a subordinate or somebody that can, said this. And I said, now go in a tub and open a vein. And you know what? I'll take care of your family. You, I don't care so much about. Go in a tub and open a vein. And, Giuliani can't keep his mouth shut. And this is going to be, his undoing because Rudy Giuliani has just blamed Mike Pompeo. This is the circular firing. They're all going to go after each other now. This is like go to the mattresses time. This is like the heads of the 5 families, okay? They're all going to go after each other. It's just sick. It's just sick. So now 3 House committees just subpoenaed Mike Pompeo because Rudy can't keep his freaking mouth shut. Okay?
Rudy, hold on a second, because the Washington Post tonight has a story out. You're the focus of it. That's not a big shock. This is what it says, in part. Though the whistleblower report focuses on the Trump-Zelensky call, officials familiar with its content said that it includes references to other developments tied to the president, including efforts by Giuliani to insert himself into U.S.-Ukrainian relations. Rudy, he did all of this, one U.S. official said. This show that we're in, it's him injecting himself into the process. Insiders saying, you muck this up. Your response?
Man, I really did. And you know who I did it at the request of? The State Department.
Oh, there you go.
I never talked to a Ukrainian official until the State Department called me and asked me to do it. And then I reported every conversation back to them. And Laura, I'm a pretty good lawyer, just a country lawyer, but it's all here. right here.
Oh my God.
The first call from the State Department, the debriefing of the State
So
Department.
why are they out to get you? This story is filled with unnamed sources again.
I will compliment myself because I do a pretty good job for him, and they try to destroy everybody around him. But they're not going to intimidate me. In fact, I'm going to work harder.
Okay. And then it gets a little heated, for Rudy, and he goes back on Lala Ingram's show last night. Now, she is the Mata Hari, okay? She's I won't say Tokyo Rhodes, because Tokyo Rhodes was actually working on our side. But she's really quite a piece of work.
Well, here's Kurt. Here's Kurt saying, great, I will tell Yermak, and he'll visit with you there, thanks.
Now
Mr. Mayor, how was your meeting with Andre? Do you have time for a call? Best, Kurt. Now, they're all over me, asking me to do it. I was happy to do it. I helped my country get this relationship in good shape.
He's literally sitting on Laura Ingram's show reading text messages from the State Department. That's why 3 House committees have just subpoenaed the Secretary of State, Mike Pompeo, formerly the CIA chief. This is very sick. All right, and he just can't stop.
Now, what is the significance of these? And are you
look now?
really
They're on the
concerned
screen.
That you're unnecessarily dragging, his name into this?
Who? Whose name?
Volker's name.
Well, yes,
Volker.
He should step forward and explain what he did. The whistleblower falsely alleges that I was operating on my own. Well, I wasn't operating on my own.
Oh, my God.
I went to meet Mr. Zelensky's aide at the request of the State Department. 15 memos make that clear.
Oh, my God.
I didn't know Mr. Yermak on July 19, you see it right there. 2019 at 4:48 in the afternoon, I got a call from Volker. Volker said, would you meet with him? It would be helpful to us. We really want you to do it. 4 or 5 conversations later, I met with him in Madrid. I reported back to them in a rather lengthy conversation. I spoke to Ambassador Sondland 4 times. I spoke to Volker 8 times. They basically knew everything I was doing.
I'm telling you, they're all going to take each other out. They're all going to do this. Everyone becomes a rat. It's every man for himself now. This is the crazy part. This is the nutbaggery of it, okay? This is the sick part, that our country has an administration that is so full of nothing but swamp creatures and disgusting mobsters running their own little rackets out of the State Department, a racket out of the White House, a racket out of the Attorney General's office, a racket out of the State Department, racket out of, oh my God. And the DNI, well, you just feel sorry for him because he's just dumb as a rock, man. He's the Fredo.
All things Randy at RandyRhodes.com.
Go for launch.
Speaking truth to power, the Randi Rhodes Show.
Okay, here is why Joe Maguire is the Fredo.
What is your understanding right now of what Mr. Giuliani's role is?
Mr. Congressman Quigley, I respectfully just referred to the White House to comment on the president's personal lawyer.
Okay. So far what I've declaimed is you see that he's his personal lawyer. We read in the complaint, we read in this modified transcript, he's mentioned 5 times. Your reaction to the fact that this civilian, without any of these vetting, has played this role?
No, sir. All I'm saying is that I know what the allegations are. I'm not saying that the allegations are true, and that's where the committee...
Well, I don't think there's any question the credibility of the complaint that's in the transcript. The president mentions and speaks highly of Mr. Giuliani, a highly respected man. He was the mayor of New York, a Graber. I would like him to call you. I will ask him to call you along with the Attorney General.
Oh my
Your
God.
reaction of the civilian dealing with these. In the complaint, it talks about our national security. The Inspector General talks about this as the highest responsibility among those that the DNI has, and
Which is
obviously
you.
Mr. Giuliani is playing this role. To your knowledge, does he have security clearance?
I don't know.
You don't know.
Congressman Quigley, I'm neither aware or unaware whether or not Mr. Giuliani has a security clearance.
Before this all happened, were you aware of his role or understanding what his role was, doing what you do?
Doing what you do.
Congressman Quigley, my only knowledge of what Mr. Giuliani does, I have to be honest with you, I get from TV and from the news media.
What?
I am not aware of what he does, in fact, for the president.
Are you aware of any communication by Mr. Giuliani and your office about how he should proceed with this role, given the classified nature, the national security implications that are in the complaint, that are in the transcript, in the role that he is playing?
Well, I have read the transcripts just as you have, so my knowledge of his activity in there is just limited to the conversation that the president had with the president of Ukraine.
Holy crap! That is the director of national intelligence under whose jurisdiction foreign interference in American elections falls. Okay? The director of national intelligence is responsible to protect American elections from foreign interference, which obviously is what's going on here. And he can't tell us whether or not Rudy Giuliani is acting alone, whether Rudy Giuliani is got a security clearance. How could he not know all of these contacts that are going on in Ukraine, that Rudy Giuliani is traveling to Poland, Rudy Giuliani is traveling to Madrid, Rudy Giuliani is soliciting interference in a foreign election, and this is the man that stands on that wall protecting us from these kinds of things, and he doesn't know if Rudy Giuliani even has a security clearance, and the only thing he knows as the director of national intelligence, which sits above all the other intelligence agencies, above the CIA, above the FBI, above all the anyone, the Department of Homeland Security, all of them, right? He is the chief. He's like the Joint Chiefs of Staff. You know, there's one guy who is in charge of. Okay, this is the guy high atop all the other intelligence agencies. He's in charge of Langley, all of it, and he can't tell you what Rudy Giuliani has been doing. He can't tell you if Rudy Giuliani is. See, do you understand how much trouble we're in? And why I just don't have confidence that under this president, we would have a free and fair election. With these kinds of I told you, we're down to the D list. We're down to the Z list. Nobody will work for Donald Trump anymore. Nobody. Which is why Rudy Giuliani is going and doing, foreign missions to help Donald Trump get reelected, because nobody would do that who is a career professional, and we've got a DNI who doesn't know anything about anything with regard to foreign interference in our election. He doesn't know. He doesn't know a thing. That's why it was, you almost feel, well, I do, because I'm very empathetic. I felt sorry for this man yesterday. I felt bad for him. He is so out of his league. He is operating so above his pay grade. The man is deaf, dumb, and blind, and he's the director of national intelligence. It's just bizarre. And he broke the law. Sorry, Joe. You might be a nice guy, but you did break the law. You failed. You failed to uphold the law. I mean, this is just bizarre. And I got to tell you that the Republicans outside of Congress, the Republicans who used to be in Congress, they know that the Republicans are wigging out.
This remains deeply troubling.
I didn't realize.
We'll see where it leads, but the first reaction is troubling. Clearly, if there were a quid pro quo, that would take it to an entirely more extreme level.
And the Senate Majority Whip, John Thune, told CNN after he read the transcript, quote, "I don't like seeing that. It is not something I would bring up." And Senator Ben Sasse saying after reading the whistleblower's complaint, which he just emerged from the secure room a little bit ago, he said, quote, "Republicans ought not be rushing to circle the wagons and say there's no there when there's obviously a lot that's very troubling there." He also, of course, criticized Democrats for moving before they actually had the transcript. Everyone is back with me now. Congressman Dent, let me start with you, though. The transcript, obviously, deeply troubling, according to those very senior Republicans and according to Democrats. But yet those Republicans are very much in the minority, right? Incredibly in the minority. Why do you think that is?
Well, look, I think that this transcript is more than troubling. It's alarming. I would suspect that most Republicans in Congress would agree with me that it is alarming. They're not willing to say it publicly because they're all fearful of primary pressure. Yeah. Even members in marginal Republican districts, swing districts, have to worry about primaries as well. And I'm telling you, that's what this is about. This not just on this issue, but on every other issue. That's sad. From Charlottesville to the tariffs to the Helsinki debacle, where we thought, why aren't more Republicans speaking up? It's always for the same reason. But if I'm a Republican, I'm alarmed by what I'm reading in this stuff.
How can you not be? The Attorney General of the United States is dirty, and he's breaking the law, and he thinks his client is the president, not the people. And the Attorney General of the United States represents the people. He's in charge of every U.S. attorney's office, every federal prosecutor in this country, and he is closing every avenue for investigating this president, including trying to prevent Congress from getting what they are statutorily, legally required, not entitled, but required to receive. Then you've got the State Department that is texting Rudy Giuliani, telling him to go get dirt on Joe Biden, giving him permission, setting up meetings for him. Pompeo is dirty. Then you've got the President of the United States, which is a whole, a whole corrupt universe in and of itself, right? You got Joe Maguire, who's the Fredo of the family. He's in charge of the entire intelligence apparatus, and he can't even detect a person meddling in our election, trying to solicit foreign interference in our election, even though this has been going on for months. For months, you've got the guy at the OLC, a man named Mr. Engel, who's dirty. You got the White House counsel, Cipollini, who replaced Don McGahn, and he's dirty. Damn.
Call in, connect. To speak to Randi, call 561-270-3844. 561-270-3844.
Yeah. There's a reason I'm in the middle of this. And the reason it's very emerges from the corruption of how they've tried to hide this for years, including trying to cover up Biden for years. I got this because the FBI wouldn't take it. For the Ukrainians who came to me back in November of 2018, and then subsequently have told this to 5 other people who could testify to it, told me that we've been trying to get to you for over a year and a half. We have solid evidence of collusion, not Russian, Ukrainian, not with Trump, with Hillary and the DNC. We believe George Soros is behind it.
What?
Because his company was involved in it.
Okay, he just makes crap up. First of all, the company he's talking about is called Antac. Look it up. George Soros he gives money to it under the Open Society Foundation because George Soros promotes democracy around the world, and he gave about 11% of Antac's funding is George Soros. That's number one. Number two, again, the prosecutor in Ukraine is a corrupt prosecutor. This is who Rudy Giuliani is relying on. This prosecutor has said at different times that he had information about Hunter Biden and then he didn't. And then he says Hunter Biden broke the law, and then he says he didn't. He said he did investigate, then he said he didn't. And today he's saying he didn't. Today he's saying there's no there.
Ukraine tonight is at the center of a firestorm it wants no part of, but can't avoid, after President Trump brought up the Bidens in that phone call with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky.
And why?
Today, Ukraine's former top prosecutor telling the Washington Post he uncovered no evidence of corruption by Hunter Biden when he worked as a consultant for a Ukrainian energy company while his father was vice president. From the perspective of legislation, he did not violate anything, the prosecutor said. But President Trump asked Zelensky to reopen the investigation.
This is crazy. This is nuts. Okay. And all of this is because the current prosecutor who replaced the crooked one, the current one, is also, he was, before he became the prosecutor under Zelensky, he was a journalist in Ukraine, a reformer, right? He was a journalist who was risking his life, literally, to report on the corruption of the previous president, Yanukovych, who was Paul Manafort's client. And Yanukovych paid Paul Manafort $12 million to clean up his image, even though he was stealing from the Ukrainian treasury and the Ukrainian people. And after the Orange Revolution, okay, and after Yanukovych was ousted by the people of Ukraine, demanding transparency and an end to the corruption, he fled to Putin's Russia. That's where he is. And this current prosecutor, who we'll call Les, not Lutz, Les, found the Black Ledger, Yanukovych's Black Ledger. And that is what he published in the newspaper as a reporter. This guy that Rudy's relying on prosecuted the journalist who exposed the corruption, who showed the Black Ledger, who showed that Yanukovych was siphoning off all this money and that he was paying Paul Manafort to improve his image around the world and make him, safe for democracy, when this guy was murdering journalists. So the guy who's the current prosecutor literally risked his life to expose Yanukovych, Paul Manafort's client, right? So that's who Rudy is relying on, the dirty prosecutor. That's who he's relying on, who today denies that Hunter Biden did anything wrong. Now, is it going to hurt Joe Biden? Yeah, it is. That's just going to happen. Because you know what this is? This is Hillary's Uranium One, which we've shown you 9 people had to sign off on the Uranium One deal, which was a Canadian Uranian. It was a Canadian company. It was not an American company, right? And so 9 people, there's a board, it's called UCFIS. 9 people, including the Secretary of State, have to sign off on any transfer of any foreign mining concerns within the United States. So that's the uranium. But they're dirtying up Joe Biden. And is it going to work? Yes, it's going to work. Absolutely, it's going to work. Here's what's going to happen but when the House impeaches Donald Trump. Obviously, McConnell says today he's going to go ahead with a trial. So let's say that the Senate has a come to Jesus moment and they remove Donald Trump. So then somebody has to come in, right? It'll be Mitt Romney. It will be Mitt Romney. Maybe Ben Sasse thinks he has a shot at it. I don't know. Maybe John Thune does. But Mitt Romney has a presidential organization already, right? And they hate each other, Trump and Romney. So Romney, I could see running. Now, I want Democrats to understand that running against Romney is a way, way, way different scenario than running against Donald Trump. So what does that do to our slate of candidates? I'm not sure, but it's going to be different, much different, if Mitt Romney runs. Okay? Now, even if Donald Trump isn't removed, I got a funny feeling Romney's going to run anyway, and Howard's been saying that for months. And a lot of Republican women in the suburbs who will not vote for Donald Trump because they can't let their children see him on the TV. They can't. They can't let their 7 and 8-year-old boys see this man say, grab him by the... They can't let their little girls see him talking. They can't let, their kids see, in the good old days, we used to bing, shoot him, kill him, dead, traitor, treason. They can't let their children watch the president of the United States. And so suburban women will not vote for Donald Trump in 2020. They just won't. But they would vote for Mitt Romney, I think. And it changes everything. Just a little, heads up there. And if you can't remember where you heard it, Randi Rhodes. I'm telling you, Howard's been saying this for months, even before we knew any of this about Giuliani. We knew Giuliani. We've known Giuliani as dirty since, he inserted himself into the New York field office of the FBI and, instructed them to sit on Anthony Weiner's computer because they knew that there were emails on there to whom Abedin, Hillary's, first assistant. They turned out to be, things that the FBI already had seen, that they had already reviewed, nothing new there. But they dumped it on James Comey 11 days before the election and told him, here, there's thousands of emails on here. You have to reopen the investigation. And they killed Hillary that way, even though there was no there. See what I mean?
This is the Randi Rhodes Show. To speak with Randi, dial 561-270-3844. That's 561-270-3844.
This is the essence of what the president communicates. We've been very good to your country, very good. No other country has done as much as we have. But you know what? I don't see much reciprocity here. I hear what you want. I have a favor I want from you, though. And I'm going to say this only 7 times, so you better listen good. I want you to make up dirt on my political opponent. Understand? Lots of it.
Wake up.
Keep in mind, that isn't some guy babbling in the men's room at Starbucks. That's the man who chairs the mighty House Intelligence Committee. We trust him with our most sensitive information. And yet he's demonstrably mentally ill. Adam Schiff is.
Oh, wow. So that's the alternative universe. That's the propaganda channel showing Adam Schiff reading the transcript of the president shaking down the new Ukrainian president, saying, we've been very good to you. We've been really, really good to you. I don't see any reciprocity here. You're not being reciprocal. And Trump talks like that. And it's this is not a verbatim transcript. This is a summary of a 32-minute phone call that we got, right? So he's actually telling you, what's in there. And it's just disgusting. And it's just, I need a favor, though. You're going to do this for me, or we're going to let you be invaded by my friend Vlad. And you know how easy that is for me to do, because I don't give a rat's ass about you. And so here's what you're going to do. You're going to go manufacture dirt on Joe Biden's son. And you're going to hand it over to us. And then, we'll release, the defense money that you need to fend off Russia, who's killed 13,000 of your people so far. That's what the president did. Let that sink in. That's what the president did to a country that wants to be as American, as European as it could possibly be, a country that wants to be part of NATO, a country that wants an open press, a country that wants a legitimate judicial system free of corruption. And that's what the president does and by the way, Ukraine is not some small little country. It is the largest country in Europe. It's humongous. The Republicans decided that they would respond to media questions about this whistleblower complaint, which is only 7 pages. And it's got footnotes, so it's actually less than that. And the summary of the phone call, which is clearly a shakedown, which is clearly mafia-like, which is clearly anti-democratic, by saying, I didn't read it. I'm not kidding. Almost every Republican of note who was asked about this whistleblower complaint, who was asked about the transcript, for lack of a better word, of the Trump conversation, and this is only one phone call, There were more. Said they didn't read it. They have no opinion because they didn't read it. Well, guess what? When they read it, and when the witnesses are called, and when the testimony is taken, and when the documents are produced from the State Department that clearly show that they were orchestrating a private citizen, Rudy Giuliani, outside of the knowledge of our intelligence community that is tasked with not just keeping us safe, but preventing foreign interference in an American election. That is their jurisdiction. I think they might change their tune.
I think the transcript is extremely damning, but if I were a prosecutor and were given that transcript, it was a wiretap, an organized crime wiretap transcript, I would say to the agents who did it, this is great. There may even be some high fives in the room, but now let's go out and let's pin down these 15 or 20 things.
Witnesses.
So I hope that the House does its job, because I think that the Republicans are in a tough spot in the Senate, and a well and meticulously researched and proven case could be a very different thing than the partisanship you see right now.
Yeah, that's Sheldon Whitehouse, Senator Sheldon Whitehouse. So, yeah, it could be a very different thing. All right, Joe in California.
Randy,
Yeah.
thank you for the Lux versus the Less thing. That really helped clarify it from a dumb old guy from Hawthorne High.
What did?
I said from a dumb old guy from Hawthorne
No,
High.
I know what you said about being dumb and old. What did you say helped you?
About the Lux and the Less.
Oh,
Figuring out
yes,
the
because they have very similar names. The crooked one is Mr. Lutsenko. And the journalist turned prosecutor currently is Leschenko. So their names are very, almost interchangeable.
So I'm sure you've probably heard that Spazio, the New Jersey congressman, thinking that this is treason. And that being said, I've kind of felt that way for some time with the Mueller report. But
it's not treason, okay? It isn't. And you don't throw these words around. What it shows is that the president of the United States is a traitor. That, being a traitor and committing an act of treason can only be done in a time of war. He is a treacherous traitor. That's what he is.
Okay, so the Section 3 of the Constitution talks about treason. And in the second paragraph, I'm a little concerned because I don't see if I understand this as correctly as I could. The Congress shall have the power to declare punishment of treason. But no attainer of treason shall work corruption of blood or forfeiture except during the life of the person attained. So I looked up corruption of blood, and it's discussing giving aid and comfort. And it's discussing war, but it doesn't say we have to be at war. So my suggestion is that when you're looking at treason, is it not that we are giving aid and comfort to the enemy, being Russia, and that is the Ukraine. So then, therefore, I think what I'm trying to suggest is that the Congress has the power to open this up and do it in public. So we have a accountability and a reconciliation process that dates back from the time he took office, because this offense is just a repeat of the first offense.
Right, but here's where Nancy Pelosi is. Nancy Pelosi is more about, let's just concentrate on this one subject here, because it's easy to understand. The whistleblower report is literally 7 pages. The transcript, which is just a summary, is 5 pages. And America can instinctively understand that there's something really ugly here. There's something really anti-democratic here, and there's something that is a betrayal of our law here.
I agree with you entirely, but I don't think that you have the numbers in the Senate to get a conviction. So
again, that's because we haven't made the case yet, have we?
That's why we need to make the case, but we're not going to get this, should I say, the turtle man to have a vote until...
Well, Turtle Man has nothing to say about it. Okay, once the trial has begun, the Chief Justice of the United States Supreme Court presides, and all that Turtle Man becomes is a juror. That's it. And his vote counts no more or less than anybody else's vote counts. He doesn't get to prosecute or defend, okay? There will be prosecutors and there will be defense attorneys, but the Mitch McConnell fades into a jury box. That's how the trial works. Now, he can, promise this or that to his members in exchange for a no vote. He can work the back room as much as he wants, but he's just a juror in a trial. Now, the indictment happens in the House, and the indictment comes after, the presentment of articles of impeachment. And that doesn't come until after the evidence is produced. So, for instance, stupid as this is, and I agree, this is stupid, Congress is on recess beginning in 3 minutes for 2 weeks. Yeah. And Nancy didn't cancel the recess because the members have previous commitments. And so next week, only the Intelligence Committee is going to work. So Adam Schiff and his Intelligence Committee members are going to work. They will be issuing subpoenas and planning for a hearing, hopefully on Friday. They're going to subpoena the witnesses. They're going to draw up the questions. They're going to arm themselves with information. And they are going to hopefully have a hearing next Friday. I don't know who their first witness will be. I can tell you 3 committees have subpoenaed Mike Pompeo, and that would be the Intelligence Committee, the Judiciary Committee, and Elijah Cummings' Committee on Oversight, and given them a deadline of, I think, October 5th to produce the documents that Rudy Giuliani is showing to Laura Ingraham from the State Department. But they are going on recess, and this is why the Democrats scare us. This is why that party is frightening sometimes. But be very clear, they're the only ones that can hold the president accountable.